waking up without an answer on who will be the next governor of Connecticut, and this is why. The race between Democrat Ned Lamont and Republican Bob Stefanowski is a dead heat.
Both campaigns called it a night very early this morning as it became clear there would be no apparent winner anytime soon, and all night long we have watched as votes have been counted and the margin between the two has gotten even smaller.
And so we want to dive deeper now into that governor's race.
Political reporter Max Reese joins us after a very late night. You were up with us early this morning. It seems like it is down to New Haven at this point.
Yeah. New Haven still has about 25, 30 precincts left reporting. Democratic stronghold. Those are not votes that are going to go for Bob Stefanowski. Period. Stop. You're talking about perhaps a 15,000 vote margin, maybe even 20,000 vote margin in New Haven on its own. And we talked, you guys were reporting on those incredible lines in New Haven, the election day registration. The fact is that for us in TV, that's great. Right? The images are incredible. The stories people trying to get out to the vote. The problem is the numbers just aren't going to be there for Bob. This is going to end up being kind of a footnote in the grand scheme of what this election was.
If that holds and Ned Lamont does become our 89th governor, it is interesting with all the talk we've heard about the blue wave. He was hardly a shoo-in. So was this as much a referendum, not so much on the Trump presidency, but on our outgoing governor?
So I think if you look at where the towns are that Ned Lamont incredibly overperformed in, they weren't buying what Bob Stefanowski was selling. They just weren't. The wealthier towns, especially in Fairfield, areas where Bob Stefanowski, a Republican, would have done well. It clearly shows that, look, the Dan Malloy messaging just didn't work.
It didn't.
It just didn't work in a way we just couldn't predict.
That said, given how, pardon me, how tight the race is right now, does that mean that regardless of who wins, they go in with maybe a little less political capital?
Ted, I'll say it to you this way. We got an unexpected blue tsunami in Connecticut last night. I don't think anybody predicted that Democrats would control the Senate the way they do, would widen their lead in the House, and then we'd have a Democratic governor. I don't think anybody with a straight face thought that was going to happen. If you're Ned Lamont, you go into this knowing that half of the state did not vote for you if he ends up being the governor. But he also has a strong stranglehold on the General Assembly, which at the very least gives Democrats almost a blank political check in some respects where they can say, look what happened. It clearly must not have been that bad the last 8 years if Democrats now have more control today or tomorrow than they did before Election Day.
And if you're just waking up with us this morning, we've been talking about the race for governor. We still don't have a declared winner, and there are some ballots that are up in the air for a number of reasons. We're hearing about wet ballots, ballots that couldn't be counted.
A soaking ballot of 2018.
This election will go down in history for that reason as well. But also these votes that are being challenged because of how they were cast, when they were cast.
And that's a point well taken. The way it works for a lot of those out there, we have Election Day registration in Connecticut, and all that means is that if you're not registered to vote, you can register to vote on that day and sign a ballot. If you're in line to register, your right to vote ends at 8 p.m. That's how it works. If you're not a registered elector, is what the state says, you can't vote. If any vote was cast by somebody who did not have a form signed out or didn't have a proper pledge that was said or anything like that, you throw those votes out. It just doesn't look like there are going to be 30 or 40,000 of those to swing this either way.
Not enough to make a difference.
That's the problem.
Much to the disappointment of the Stefanowski campaign, but we're going to hear much more about that with the legal challenges sure to come.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
All right, Max, thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Statewide, we saw a higher than normal turnout for a midterm election, as by far, some communities even shattering records. As of 3 p.m., 40% of registered Connecticut voters had cast their ballot. By 5 p.m., Glastonbury had surpassed its 2014 turnout with 58%. And at 7 o'clock, Tolland set a new voter turnout record with more than 69%. That is phenomenal. Their last record was 67%. That was back in 2006. So still waiting for final voter turnout numbers from the Secretary of the State.
Impressive numbers nonetheless.